3 o'clock. Great to have you with us here on weather-wise, a completely miserable Friday. But look, it is the draft round one postmortem. Lions made headlines, a lot of them not positive. Trying to figure out where you guys are at with it. If you've tuned in to pick up the remains of my splattered brain all over the room because my head exploded, you're going to be bummed out. Because that was last night. When they drafted Gibbs at 12, I was really angry. Campbell I could live with because I don't allow Mel Kiper to run my household. I've seen Campbell anywhere from the 20s to the 40s, okay? I don't care what old Hairspray has to say. The Lions love the kid, and it's clear. We've talked about it. Brad Holmes is drafting using these RAS scores. And it's an analytic. It's a measurement of true athleticism. Every pick he's made, whether it's J-Mo, whether it's Penei Sewell, whether it's Aiden Hutchinson, whether it is Jahmyr Gibbs, or whether it's Jack Campbell, has had a RAS score, I think, higher of 8.5. Okay? Like, I'm not telling you it's right or wrong. I'm trying to give you context. I'm trying to let you understand how your GM thinks. It's pretty clear the Lions did not have a lot of first-round grades on guys. And it's pretty clear they wanted to walk out with 2 of their players. So here's my question. You know I don't like a running back at 12. Do I like Jahmyr Gibbs? Oh, hell yeah. And I know you do too. He's a really good player. But, like, isn't this the ultimate win-now draft? Like, we all believe, okay, we're going to win North. We're going to get a home playoff game. It's almost like Jim Costa's nightmare. Cookies wanted, like, draft and stash, like a Euro basketball player.
Well, no, because Cookies doesn't believe that the Lions are going to win it next year. He still thinks that next year is the year.
Oh, no, they're going to win it so much.
The window will open next year. That's why I said, no, the window's now.
Me, Kenny, Cumberbunds, luxury suite, tuxedos, playoff game. It's happening.
Yeah, I had to return my tuxedo. They didn't take Carter. That was a thing.
I know. And that's fair. But my point is, Gibbs is going to play from day one. He's going to play he'll be on the field with Montgomery. He'll be your third down Kamara. And you bet your ass Jack Campbell from day one's your middle linebacker.
And that's why I'm not upset. That's why I said I feel like they overpaid. I was a little disappointed. But to be fair, I said your first 2 picks have to contribute to the team. Both of these guys are going to be playing next year. Both of these guys are going to be out there. So not the positions that I wanted, but Holmes kind of understood the assignment. I wish he'd have asked me a couple of more questions.
It's kind of funny, though, like when you put it that way. It's like you got half of what you wanted.
Yes.
You wanted to win now, and all in the lead-up, it was, guys, they got to take players who are going to play right now. And he did that, but I'm with you. If you tier out positionally value, linebacker and running back are what are considered tier 3. And I have bad news for you. There's only 3 tiers. So that's where
they will be playing.
Right. You got elite players at non-essential positions. But do I think Jack Campbell makes you better defensively, makes you better against the run? I'm still skittish. I'm still skittish dropping that kid in zone cover in the NFL. But, hey, guess what? That's their ass in the jackpot, not mine.
And before you tell me where he was the nation's top linebacker, that's a college award, and how many times have we seen the Heisman Trophy winner not pan out in the NFL? Right. So spare me with that one. But, yes, that's my biggest concern because the NFL is going more 7-on-7. If it's a play-action pass, can he drop back into coverage and guard his man?
The Gibbs thing, you guys know how it is.
Now, the Gibbs thing, you're right. They're going to move him around, and he's going to play some slot receiver. He's going to catch it out the backfield.
And it spells the end of DeAndre Swift.
They may put him and Montgomery in at the same time.
100% they will. And I could see Gibbs getting motioned right out into the slot.
I mean, basically, he'll be Debo, except for he's actually a running back instead of a wide receiver.
Here's the other thing, guys. If you're upset that they didn't take a specific player, ask yourself why. Is it because Mel Kiper told you so? Is it because what? Think about realistically, if Brad Holmes did not have a first-round grade on whether it's Nolan Smith, whether it's Kalijah Cansey, whether it's Brian Brisset, think about what you're asking your GM to do here. You're asking him to take a player with a second-round grade. Instead of one, he has a top 10 or top 12 grade on. Now, you can disagree and say, well, I like this guy better. Fine. Then the battle you're trying to fight is you know more than the GM. Now, if it's against Al Avila, I choose you. But Brad Holmes has not shown to be anything but competent. So I have to go with it. but I have a right to say, what, David?
We don't draft running backs in the first round.
Very smooth delivery, David. Anything else? Go ahead. I'm just trying to set the table, and we'll get to the calls.
No, we're good.
Good?
Let's go.
All right, let's roll. Let's go to Ivory, 97.1. Ivory, how are you today?
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, so a few things you said that I'll be as quick as I can because I know you got a lot of callers.
Take your time. You waited. Relax.
And with the 18th pick, the 97-1 team has selected Ivory from Detroit.
I appreciate that. But so a few things you said when I was listening on the way home from work align with what I'm saying. Is that, first let me say, when I was sitting here and I seen picks 12 and, 18, I was like, what? I didn't understand. Like, I was confused. Like, and I'm still, and why am I that way? Because it aligns with something you said before. Like, I'm just a fan. Like, I've been loving football all my life. I'm just an armchair GM. So I almost love the off season more than the regular season because I'm a mock draft geek. So it's like I've done so many mock drafts as a fan that out of, I guess you would say, habit, you get attached to names. So when I'm seeing, I knew when Witherspoon was gone, they were moving down. So when they picked Gibbs, I'm like, Gibbs? But, they identify, particular players because they know things that we don't. Like, if they identified these players and they had these first-round grades on these players and they knew that the Patriots were going to take Gibbs a couple spots later, because two things can be true at once, like Rico said. They overpaid, but maybe they had to get the players they wanted with their particular scheme. And, another thing is that, my major thing this offseason was, and I think it's real important. Another reason why I think I'm kind of disappointed is because, and we'll see what they do today, but you have to maximize the time you have with particular players to maximize their value and their talents. So you have Aiden Hutchinson, and you want to get him off of those double teams. You want to get him to be able to free him up. And their biggest need, they need a 3-tech defensive tackle. And I'm praying. I hope the kid does well, Jalen Carter, but please don't be an all-pro. Please don't be Aaron Donald.
Oh, I know.
Because
Ivory, you're 100% right, is that if whatever reason they passed on him, he ends up being an all-pro with the Eagles, we're not going to care about their reasons. They got it wrong.
Right.
Because if you can draft a 320-pound game wrecker and you passed on it to take a 5'9", 195-pound running back, look, that running back's value will never eclipse Jalen Carter's. Now, here's the other thing. I don't do draft grades. They're the dumbest things in the world. Second of all.
Okay, you know what? And this is why we are radio partners. Because I was about to say, hey, you want to hear a draft grade that came out?
No, because I don't even think we could finish evaluating the first round until who we see at 34.
I understand.
You got paid.
Well, no, just an individual, not the Lions team.
All right, go ahead. Well, humor.
Jameer Gibbs.
Who did the grading?
Looks like Pete Prisco.
Oh, great. Another has-been.
Yes, he's an airback. Yes, he can do a lot of things. But again, why take him when a guy like corner Christian Gonzalez is on the board?
Because they didn't like him, Pete.
He's good, but he's a back. At least he wasn't a top 10, and it was a D.
Pete Prisco's covered the league for so long. He asks a question he knows the answer to.
He gave Jack Campbell an A+.
Great. The point is, why didn't he take Gonzalez? For the same reason they didn't take him at 6, Pete. They came back around at 12 and could have still taken him. Here's your answer, Peter. They didn't like him. It's not, Christ, we're not curing cancer. They didn't like him.
I always laugh. Now, the worst than mock drafts is the grades.
Oh, it's awful.
Because you don't know. If you're going to grade a draft, you grade a draft 3 years from now. Then you could say, this guy was good.
Like Mel
this guy was a
Kiper
bust.
kind of did it this morning, and I go, wait, let me get it straight. So you don't like this because it didn't align with where you had Jack Campbell. Well, newsflash, you're a horse's ass with bad hair. I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
Todd. I don't care.
Like I said,
I had Campbell at 48. Blow it out your ass. Last I checked, you're not a GM. That's like me saying, well, I had Jack. Like, we're radio hosts. We don't have draft boards. I tell you about like principles of kind of what I'd like my team to do. Don't take small people in the top 5. If you're drafting high and you know your QB doesn't have a long runway, take one. Build an O-line. You know, like
when all else fails, take a linebacker that kills people.
Right, but you don't hear me die on the hill of like one player. Right. That's just, that wasn't on my draft board. Well, do me a favor. Go email Brett Holmes. Because Brett Holmes is the guy who's going to be working the soup kitchen if these picks don't work. Draft grades. Hey, right here with your draft grades.
Already.
Wow. I got to see what they do at 34 before we even finish thinking about the first round.
Jake Moody.
I hate you. Jeff, 97.1. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, Mike. I think, like everybody else, you're trying to figure it out, right? And I don't think your analysis or the way you laid it out was perfect, but I think it makes as much sense as anything else I've heard. This was identified as a weak draft to begin with, correct?
Feels that way, yeah.
Well, I mean, they're saying, some guy made a joke. He said, I looked at the Lions' 2 picks. I said, they had a nice day too. Well, that kind of shows you what the overall talent level of the draft is. And if guys like Holmes and Campbell are good with these guys, and they say, look, these are the guys that we value as first rounders, then let them take them. Why are you trying to force something? They're looking at it aside from positional value, which I know is the big thing, and all the analytics guys. And I'm not defending what they're doing, but like you're saying, I think at least it shows you what the thought process is.
Right.
And then I've got a theory on this whole thing too. Is if you look at the guys they've drafted, in particular the last couple of years, what kind of guys are they? They're team captains, right? They're guys that are mature players, leaders on their team. I think that what they're looking at is saying, look, we're going to be unconventional in our approach, at least through the end of this draft cycle here, because I think the ultimate idea is they're saying we've got to if you look at guys, again, talk about Holmes, Campbell, Spielman, culture goes hand in hand with talent to them. Character goes hand in hand with talent to them. And they're saying we're going to try to get that critical mass in our locker room where it's bulletproof character-wise. And then once that happens, if they feel they've achieved that, then when a Jalen Carter slips, now you say, hey, we don't have to worry about it. We can take him because these guys can handle him. And it's just a theory I have, but I think, this is a crazy draft.
Yeah, and we talked about it in the lead up to it. I don't think it helped having the Jamison Williams and company suspensions, 10 days prior to the draft. Yeah. Because that your recency bias begins to take over, and you go, wow, we're on the heels of getting rid of a couple of guys. Like, they didn't want to get they C.J. Moore.
Absolutely. I think it did change their line of thinking, like, yep, take those 3 off the board because look what we're dealing with now. They could potentially be these type of guys in a few years.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because it's 2 different people, 2 different situations, but that's just how we judge folks.
Yeah, and again, right. Jeff, I think for me, the big thing I wanted to accomplish on the air today is, like, I'm not going to change anybody's mind. I don't know that I'll be able to long-term change my own, but I wanted to at least provide what I think is a working context to the why. Like, you can still be upset, you can still be, but understand why they made these picks. I think it's lazy to just go out there and just be like, well, what were they, addicted to crack? That's not.
Yeah, well, Mike, you brought up the name Christian Gonzalez a couple of times in this context of what we're talking about, right?
Right.
And everybody's, well, why didn't they take Christian Gonzalez? I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago with a former GM, and he says, you know what? I'm wondering if these guys that are doing all these evaluations and grades on these guys, what much tape they watched. Because I saw Christian Gonzalez whiff on a weight tackle to be a top 10.
Jeff, I brought it up. I think this was like 2 days ago we were talking, and a guy started yelling at me because he's like, well, if you don't want Witherspoon, you have to take Gonzalez. And I'm like, no. I go, did you watch Oregon? I go, when you make a tackle 23 yards down the field, I don't even count that as, what is it, a participation trophy? I mean, Jeff, I'm with you. And when a team passes on somebody multiple times, they're telling you, we don't like you. You know what I mean, though, about the first part.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess the Lions are doing the crack again. No, I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that.
Yeah. This is the draft that we're going to really find out.
Amen.
We're going to know what Brad, a year from now, we're going to say, hey, full trust in him, or you remember last year, right?
Oh, look, if these two picks are average players, maybe above average, it's a bad draft. This draft where you have 5 of the top 85 picks, yeah, man, this has to be a plant your flag, difference maker draft. We're like, hey, this is when the Lions turned a corner. Mm-hmm. We expect them to win this division, and the players they're taking, people can laugh. Jack Campbell has to help them win this division.
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs has to help win this division.
Yeah.